We're going to make the pedestal base. So there's a couple of ways to make the pedestal base. So one way, we'll move our banding wheel out of the way, is to roll a very thick coil. So there's my thick coil. Squeezing that back into a round shape. There we go. So when I've got it roughly the thickness, and remember you want this quite thick, I'm going to trim it a little bit, trim off the top. And because that's a very, very thick coil, what we want to do is take the end of a paintbrush and we're going to push that down into the centre. This is also how we're going to get that flared out bit at the bottom here. And we're going to get our base a little bit thicker. So push that in, rotate that around, and you can see it's got a nice hollow, so that clay is not too thick. It will dry out nice and evenly, and it's flared out a little bit. It's a bit of a funny shape. That's fine. I'm going to fiddle with that shape in a moment. There we go. And pinch that base out. So it's a little bit more like this one. Each of these bird baths will be unique, so I'm actually not worried about making it exactly the same as that one. I'm just showing you a bird bath. Just like you don't need to be worried about making exactly the same as the example. Your bird bath should be your own creative creation. So now I'm doing the really, really important slipping and scoring. So I have a container of slip over here in front of Miss Mia. I'm dipping the fork in the slip and I'm scratching, cross-hatching in several different directions. So I'm aiming to have the top of that clay really, really rough and sticky, and the same on the other surface. So anytime we join clay to clay, we need to slip and score. So it looks like that. It's a little bit like if I put my hands together like this, it's very, very easy for you to pull my hands apart. But if I intermesh my fingers like this and you try to pull my hands apart, it makes it a lot harder. So we're getting an intermeshing between these two pieces of clay. We put that on top and put our thumb in the middle of that pinch pot in the bottom bowl and push and wiggle. You don't want to rotate because that will flatten all the slip and score. It's just a little bit of a wiggle and a firm push. You notice how my bottom hand is supporting the pedestal so it doesn't collapse. So, and it's got a bit of a lean to it, so I'm straightening it back up. So it is joined around there, but we also need to put a coil around that join to reinforce it. So we get a little bit of extra clay, clear my bench space of all scraps, and roll the coil. There's my coil, and the coil goes around that join like that. There. And you can use your finger or a modelling tool. I'm going to use a modelling tool to take clay from one half of the coil and smear it to the top, and clay from the bottom half and smear that to the bottom. And that reinforces that join. So what are you making?
I'm making a bird.
Cool. Once I've joined that nice and securely, now it's time to do a little bit of smoothing over and starting to get all this lovely decorative shaping. So making sure it's standing up nice and straight, I'm going to take my finger and smooth down the outside of the pedestal. You'd use a rubber kidney if you're more comfortable. Tools and fingers and rubber kidneys, it's all up to you which you choose for which job, because after all it's your creation and whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever does the trick for you.